The Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, kicking off the 2019 PGA season. Tournament champions, picks, previews. I'd say one and dones, but we're not starting the one and done until next week.
Are we giving one and dones?
No, we're not.
Not even recommendations?
No.
Okay, good.
I'm not playing it. People can make their own picks for this week. Although I have so few bets on the card already, and I don't plan on having a bunch this week with such a small field. You're really gonna have to pick and choose from the top. I think that if you want to tail me, you can take the one guy I really like, I suppose.
I would always get stuck in this event thinking, small field, no cut event. I'll play like Jeff Ogilvy.
No, you don't want to do that. You want to use a good guy.
Because he's been really good here before, but he was so less the player than he ever was.
You know what we'll do? We'll talk one and done strategy at the end. Instead of making a pick for one and done, we'll just talk about our outlying strategy and how it might change this year versus other years. How about that?
Sounds good.
All right, so what I'm going to do, I got some giveaways for the people. So number one, smash the like button for the episode. That always goes a long way in helping. And leave your DraftKings handle in the comment section. Let me know who you think is going to win. That easy. Then you're in a draw for 20 DK bucks. I will announce the winner for the $20 DK draw from this show and the next show and the two previous shows on next week's show.
And watch those shows.
Yeah,
if
go
you
back.
haven't.
Hit the
if you're watching this.
Yeah, hit the description and the comment section. They'll both be in there. The links to the shows. You can download the audio podcast. It's fun.
All right.
So I do have actual winners, though. Giveaway winners. So we had two giveaways from those shows. We had two entries to the GUP One and Done to give away and a membership to fantasynational.com, the premier stats database and tools in the biz. So I got the winner first for the Fantasy National.
It's a pretty big win.
It's a big win. Monetarily, it's worth more than the two GUP ones, although you could use the GUP entry to win lots of money. But
yes,
the Fantasy National winner is on Twitter at @M_Malargy, and his name is Michael Taylor. He is the winner. I will be in contact with him.
Sounds familiar.
I mean, he's on Twitter. The name Michael Taylor is pretty generic name. It could be just someone you basically know. So the two winners of the GUPS One and Done free entries, Drew McCormick at DrewM9090 on Twitter, and Shane at 66ASP on Twitter. You get a free entry into the GUPS One and Done.
They're
But
probably already in.
sure. Now you got
Double up.
Now you got another one. I'm going to have two this year like I had last year, although it did me no good. I'm going to allocate one of the One and Dones to whatever I pick on the show. I'll enter that. Unless I'm in it by the end.
So then I'll do two also. Because then it just no human should have to manually tabulate
Yeah, this makes it much easier for us.
our show. Okay.
I'll just keep a running list of who we
Yeah.
picked this time around. And then I'll have another one where I just waste $50. $50, $100?
50.
$50, yeah.
I feel like you're going to have to do... It's gotten really big.
Yeah.
So it's sort of, in a smaller sample size, the old ways of how you would win and what it would take to win.
Well,
I think
I said we're doing this at the end, the one and done. Remember? I said that a minute ago.
All right, let's go.
I do have another entry to give away, though. They said this works so well. So for the Sony show next week, between now and then, if you retweet this show or share it on Facebook or on Instagram, and then just retweet it, no quote tweeting. I saw more people quote tweeting. They're instantly disqualified. So just a retweet and then reply to that tweet or the Facebook post underneath and the Instagram post, whatever it may be, with the hashtag GUP2. You are in the draw for the final free entry into the GUP's Corner One and Done. I feel like that's a nice way to go about it. I'll have the DK show tomorrow, New Year's Day with Ben Raza, to break everything down with this. But do you want to jump in? Jump in for the first time all year?
I'm very calm because we've had these odds for a few days.
I still don't know what to do with them.
But there's sometimes we'll just be starting this show and I'm still waiting for odds on certain outlets. And it's very frazzled. So the field is small. We've had the odds. I'm ready to go.
All right, let's get into the course then. The course is Kapalua, the plantation course. They've been playing this forever for this tournament. It's really long. It's just a shade under 7,500 yards, 7,452 to be exact. Par 73, which is just weird. I always forget that it's par 73 every year, and I'm like, oh yeah, It's this stupid course. It was 47th of 51st in difficulty last season, so it's super easy. We've seen winners as low as 30 under. Spieth got to 30 under 3 years ago. He is not in the field this year. There's 34 players in the field. No cut event, so take that into consideration when we go with everything. And it's going to be windy. I checked Thursday and Friday, and it's going to be like 30-mile-per-hour winds both those days.
So a groundskeeper or someone who claims to be a groundskeeper showed up in my DMs.
Willie?
No, but letting me know, yes, it will be windy, but he still expects the guys to go absolutely low. Says Rory's been crushing it after hours on the range when no one else is there.
Well, he's also never played this tournament before.
And I don't know if Rory's one of those guys that literally, took time off, like... Well, it's a bigger thought process to how much guys have been. It's like when you show up to spring training, you've usually been in the gym and working out at home and doing things on your own before you actually go to the first day of camp. But some guys just show up at the first day of camp and they haven't lifted a weight the entire off season. I feel like Rory's getting some extra balls in because maybe he didn't hit so many during his downtime.
Or he's just reflecting on last season that by his standards, one win is a huge disappointment. Maybe he's just trying to gear up for this season. Started off right with a win.
Starting off the season playing amateur psychologist.
There you go. I mean, we're gonna have another 40 weeks of it, so we'll be good.
And Rom shot a 59 at a local neighboring place yesterday.
I mean, see, you should not be reading that sort of stuff. You know how that stuff doesn't work. It just...
Well, things were already done for me. It was just putting air in my tire.
Okay, so you were already in on Rom.
Yeah.
All right, so the actual course itself, like I said, it's long. The fairways are super wide. Everyone's going to hit the fairway here, so it's bombs away. We saw Dustin last year when he put it to like 2 inches on a par 4, shot of the year, I thought. PGA said it was the third best shot of the year. I thought it was the best shot.
I saw you hunting the actual what is that value based in a metric?
So Dustin led the field last year in strokes gained off the tee. Now, generally speaking, strokes gained approach is more important than strokes gained off the tee at this event. Just Dustin was just hammering it off the tee last year, and the score was lower. The scoring was lower last year than other years. So maybe it was just an outlier year. Was the wind down last year? I feel like Saturday was tough at this course last year because Leishman just blew up on Saturday, as I recall, because he was winning after 2 rounds. But that shot per Justin Ray was worth 1.88 strokes gained off the tee. And I think he finished with like 7. So that was a huge chunk of that one shot.
I knew you were looking for how to quantify that one shot.
That's a lot. Considering Wes Bryan loses like 13 strokes per event off the tee. Dustin's gaining almost 2 on one shot.
And last year, this is where Brooks disappeared, right?
Yeah,
or was that at the Hero?
No, that was here. He played and came like 20.
And it was a wrist, and we're all like, dear God.
Like, what's going on with Brooks? And then he was just gone.
Yeah,
he missed the Masters last year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he came back at...
It was a wrist
Zurich?
injury.
Zurich?
Right around the Players, because I think the Players was the second event he played.
I think he played the team event. That's the first time we saw him back. Did he play with his brother? I think he played with...
Oh. Usually he's out there getting chased at a PGA and American money.
I think he did that once. I think last year he played with like Mark with a C something. Forget who it is. It's like some like web.com player.
But I do believe his like second or third event was the Players, and that's when I was like, this guy's just
yeah. And then he made the Albatross, and yeah, he's good to go.
This guy's just fine.
That's when everyone started betting him for the U.S. Open. Not me, but others smarter people than me started hammering it at 40-1, and boom, he ends up winning. So statistically, I still like strokes gained approach here as the major metric to look at. But this has been a wedge fest in the past. Like, don't let Dustin fool you. He's won here twice, but Zach Johnson's won here. Jonathan Bird has won here. Steve Stricker has won here.
Patrick
Reed, Jordan Spieth. Justin Thomas has won in the past as well. So it's not necessary to be a bomber because everything rolls downhill. Like 7,452 yards is shorter anyway because it's a par 73, but you get extra distance off the tee here. Like there's a lot of downhill. But the big thing is, and I talked about this last year, and it proved not to be super true because Dustin ended up winning. He's yet to win at Augusta National. He's never won at TPC Deer Run. But guys that have won the John Deere Classic tend to play well at this event because it's a lot of, same as Augusta, like you're never going to get a flat lie at Augusta. And it's very similar to TPC Deer Run. Like all the fairways are kind of wide, but they're all on a slant. Very similar to Kapalua as well. And there are just certain players that know how to play balls off an angle. Dustin is one of them. He always plays well at Augusta. That's why I don't think that Rory's going to have too difficult of a time acclimating himself to this course. And guys that are just good with wedges. Like this is a wedge fest. Like, you're going to get to 25 under, 28 under, and you need to be able to make birdies from 75 yards out.
It's a glorified hit and giggle, but yes, one of these guys, because the field is elite, and when's really the time an elite player doesn't win this?
Jonathan Bird is the last one.
And Patrick Reed probably had a pretty nice number, I would think.
I thought he was like 25 to 1 when he won. And he beat Jimmy Walker on the final day. He came back and stormed him in the playoff.
The field has so much quality that clearly one of these guys, whether it be that bomber or that wedge guy like a Zach Johnson, who isn't here, but whether it be them, when one of these guys is on fire at a course like this, when they're doing what they do well, like what the highlight of their game is here to start the year, obviously they're going to flirt with those 24, 30 unders.
So let's get into the odds. Ready for this? Dustin Johnson, the defending champion, is the favorite. He is 5 to 1. John Rahm, coming off a win at the Hero, is 7 to 1. We got Justin Thomas at plus 750, so he's 15 to 2 or 7.5 to 1. Brooks 8 to 1, Rory 9 to 1, Jason Day 11 to 1, Bryson 12 to 1, Patty Reed 14 to 1. Those are the 6 players that are below 20 to 1, and Reed originally opened at 25 because Rose, Phil, and Tiger, we weren't sure whether or not they were playing, but they were listed in the odds. And then as soon as those 3 guys dropped out, Reed went from, and everyone bet him at 25, so he went from 25 to 14 very quickly.
I got him at 20, but he was the biggest drop because I didn't really see a guy like, there are other players who I didn't really see drop at all when those guys left the field, which kind of surprised me. But you and a couple people on Twitter were onto it that everything is going to adjust because a lot of books had posted it with Tiger, with Rose, with those guys in it.
Initially, when everything came out, the only one that didn't was like Bet365. They waited until everyone was out of the field.
Which is weird because they're
usually the first
ones at the table, and books that are much slower to almost even respond to Bet365 setting their numbers, at least in our neck of the woods, the books we have access to, usually follow off Bet365, and they were out there with numbers.
So who do you like? Who do you like? Are you betting Dustin at 5 to 1? Last time he did that, he won.
I don't know. I'm not betting Dustin at 5 to 1.
So for me, it's come down to 3 guys. I'm already in on Bryson. There was 8 guys underneath 20 to 1. I'm in on Bryson at 12 to 1. I mentioned that on the preview show, which again, everyone should go watch. A winner at TPC Deer Run. We've seen him have some success at Augusta. He played this last year, and that's always been a big thing. When no first-time winner has ever won here, at least in the past 10 years. And you're usually going to get a really quality guy who winning. Like outside of Jonathan Bird, who I mentioned, like Stuart Appleby won here 3 years in a row back in like the early 2000s. Jeff Ogilvy won back-to-back. But Bryson's ascending. He kind of took his lumps last year, and this year it's a very similar path like what Justin Thomas did when he won here 2 years ago. Play it the first time, then boom, all of a sudden he's in it. So I like Bryson at 12. The other 2 are between Rahm and Justin Thomas as my 2 other favorites from the top. But I don't know if I want to get in on them. Because what else do I do at the bottom then? If I go with Rahm and I go with Bryson, or I go with JT and I go with Bryson, do I have any other bolts? Do I even want any other bolts from down the list?
This list cuts off very early for me.
Because I have guys that I like from down here, but I don't know if I'm going to get there.
The lowest bet that I made was Leishman at 33. Or the highest bet, I guess you would say.
Okay.
And that's where, and usually I don't even like going that high in this tournament. I like John Rahm out of those select group of players that you mentioned.
The guys that played well at the Hero tend to carry over a lot of momentum into this event too.
I feel like a bit of a sucker, like because I picked Rahm to win Player of the Year. It's like you picking. I'm just trying to
like me with the Ravens this year.
Sure, it's like you picked the Ravens to win the Super Bowl. So that's my pick to win the Super Bowl. And then it's like week 1 and you don't really love their situation, but it's like, I bet them to win the Super Bowl, so you better believe week 1. And, there's like 40 freaking things of these. Really doesn't matter. Player of the Year, you'll get no Player of the Year points for this. Or it'll break a tie. Is what like
it's just like another win to add. I mean, Bubba won 3 times last year and wasn't even consideration for Player of the Year.
exactly. And it's silly to even go there, but it's more to my like confidence in the player. We just did the show.
He
The
just
previous
won
shows-
coming into. We have 3 players coming off of wins. Shout out to Paul for correcting me on that. John Rahm coming off a win. Satoshi Kodaira coming off a playoff win in Japan. And Charles Howell III coming off a win for the first time in like 15 years.
I also did something yesterday that I said I wasn't going to do this year.
Hey, you parlayed.
And that was parlay golfers with other bets because I just feel in the long game.
I'm staying away from it. I think
Yeah,
I
it's a
learned my
suck-
lesson.
yeah.
It's a bad idea.
And then especially when a guy already has a number, you just sometimes want to accept it. But you know me and people that watch the other show, I was so gung-ho on the Bills and alternate, like every which way. So I kind of wish I did that with like 5 Masters picks.
Yeah.
Except for that 20-minute window where I was mad at myself. But so I kind of juiced up that number, so it's kind of unfair to preach it. But even if you're of the elite guys, John Rahm is my favorite to win this golf tournament.
Don't we always get ourselves, and we just twist it in our minds, that any time that you have a small field, no-cut event, just take Justin Thomas? Isn't that like the thing? Doesn't he win like 50% of these? That's what would worry me about the very top of this, that we're all kind of sleeping on Justin Thomas. Like even in the preview show, like we barely talked about him. He's not exciting, so we didn't make our 10 players that we're excited about.
Yeah, and
but these are the type of tournaments he dominates.
And it's funny because one of the reasons I'm so sort of like into Rahm, for how good he is and for what his world ranking represents, it already feels like by a lot of people he's being forgotten. And then you're like, there's Justin Thomas who's accomplished more than Rahm, and you make the case he's being more forgotten.
I mean,
it's quite astonishing.
I get like Rahm is 7-1 right now because he's coming off a win and he was second here last year. Like the reason Dustin's 5-1 because he won here last year. And yeah, he's probably the best player in the world.
But Justin won here 2 years ago.
Yeah, and had a bad year last year. So he's getting discounted for that. It's just anytime that I see one of these, like I like the value on Bryson the best because I don't think that Dustin Johnson he's 5-1, Bryson's 12-1. Like does Dustin really have a 2.5 times better chance of winning this tournament than Bryson? No. They're probably a lot closer in terms of actual win equity. So Justin Thomas is that middleman right there. I really do want to go with Rahm. Are we just forgetting about Brooks? Just saying screw it? It's not a major. Don't worry about Brooks Koepka.
I am.
Okay.
Am I like sure? Might have egg on my face. I'm Pat. Give me 5 seconds.
Okay.
I just will need this event. This event's gonna have to be there for me on Sunday night. We'll just leave it at that. Potentially.
Oh, you're already crying over the Chargers. And
No, I'm not crying.
It looks like you're crying. You're welling up a little
No,
bit, man.
I'm poor. I'm just. It's gonna have to those those whale shots in the ocean. They'll be very soothing.
You need something to calm your nerves. You also need to talk into the microphone to the side of it.
I'm not trying to. Patrick Reed is gonna have to calm those nerves.
So you're in right now. You've bet Rahm and Reed.
Yeah,
Those are your 2 bets?
Bryson was the other guy I was thinking.
I bet Bryson, like, when Tiger was still listed in the field and Phil was still listed in the field, I bet Bryson, but then his odds just didn't move, so it didn't really matter.
I found that really strange.
No one at the top moved. They were already being overvalued. So what are they going to do? Move Dustin to 4-1?
I thought Bryson was gonna potentially move down.
No, because Reed picked up all the heat because everyone's really in on Patrick Reed this week.
I would argue, in the sense you talk of Brooks and it being not important enough, the equations might not be like hard enough here for Bryson.
I think that he's played it before. I think that's going to go a long way for him because he was bad here last year, as I recall. Let's see. Yeah, 26th. Not good. But it's no different than Justin Thomas, though. 21st in his first appearance, then boom, spikes, wins. And Bryson has, 3 wins in the past 5 months? I'd say just keep rolling him out there. Hey, I'll make a decision later in the week. I always post my bets up on my Facebook page, facebook.com/thepme, and those will be out on Wednesday. So the rest of the field, let's get to these guys, because there's very quality players just lingering about in this 20 to 50 range. So Francesco Molinari is 22-1. Let's see, Webb Simpson is 22-1. So is Xander. So is Cam Champ. We got Leishman and Woodland at 25, although you said there's a better Leishman number out there at 33, right?
I don't know if it's still there because last I saw this number was 28.
Casey and Bubba are both 33. Wise is 40. Cooch is 45. Snediger, Billy Ho, and Keegan are all 50-1. Poulter and CH3 are 66. Piercy's 80. Na is 90. Kazire is 100. Then you got like Tway, Landry. Are we even going to take a plunge on any of these guys? I guess technically, Patton Kazire is coming off a win. He won that team event with Brian Harmon.
These guys are essentially like the old guys of the Masters.
Yeah.
The bottom, like, 8, at least, to me.
Well, Ted Potter has a 26th place finish here before.
You know, guys like Keegan and Horschel are intriguing, but I'm not willing to make that sort of move.
I'm really surprised Scott Piercy hasn't played better here because he's a really good win player.
Yeah, the Vegas boy always.
But in 3 appearances, 24th, 13th, 12th. And he's a great par 4 scorer. He's great with a wedge. He's a great ball striker. He just can't putt.
Can he go low enough to win, to have the
feel
score
like,
that this course
yeah, I
requires?
think so. I think that he is the sort of guy that would show up to the John Deere Classic and post 28 under. Like, aren't those the type of tournaments that he would win?
Okay. So
Like birdie fests?
Of that group, it seems like Molinari feels quite disrespected, but I don't know what he's going to do here. He's sort of like the patron saint of European golf at the moment, and maybe he had a great Christmas.
He's played this tournament once before, and it was in 2011.
Oh, it's too long. Good to be back. Good to be back. I
kind of like Molinari too. And this is where I get into the problem.
This is the two guys in this range that I was debating. I took Leishman at a bigger number out of this group. Was Molinari and Xander.
I kind of like Leishman too, just because, he's playing really well. He gagged it away to Cam Smith in Australia, but he's coming off almost like Justin Thomas. What did he win, the CIMB? The small field, no-cut event where you have to just make birdies and bunches. So he has a win and a second in his last 2 starts. Am I reading that right? A win, an 18th, and a second in his past 3 starts. So he had a really good swing season. He's been all over the world. If this gets super windy, he's one of the players I have the most confidence in wind.
And you mentioned he was sort of cruising here. He had one.
Yeah, he was leading after 2 rounds last year. And then he just
bottomed out. But
yeah.
That's not the first or last time that'll happen to my Leishman bets.
And he's won, he won at Bay Hill in a windy event over Kisner on Bermuda. So that's always a nice sign to see.
That was a great one. 100-1.
And he also won at, where was it? He beat Reed somewhere. I think it was the BMW. It was also a no-cut event. So maybe Leishman is worth the look.
Man, Paul Casey, no history.
Yeah, he finally broke. Shouldn't he be a guy that plays well here, though?
Absolutely.
Like if I said like Riviera and the Masters are potential corollary places, he doesn't win at those places, but he plays really well at those places. I do worry that he has he ever played it? I'm sure he has. My notes only go back to 2011. So I don't think he had won since 2010. So it's been a while for him. 2009, Houston was the last time he had won before Valspar. I think he's interesting. But if I'm going to take a shot at the top of the board, I may have room for 2 of these guys on the card. Like I was even looking at Kevin Na at 90-1. I think Snediger is going to be a super hot pick this week. He's had a great course history here.
Imagine having to swallow. Sorry.
He's won in Hawaii. He has the 2/3 at this event. And he's a wedge player. Like when he won the Wyndham, like that's how you win this event. Just keep the ball in the fairway and just start smacking wedges.
I'm a fan of the guy, but imagine having, and I'll bet him at big events. But imagine having to swallow a Woodland at like 24-1.
Not here.
That's what I mean. Like, I thought he would be priced with like Casey and Bubba.
No. Well, I mean, you got Champ at 22.
Yeah, but that's just because.
I think he's actually quite live here.
Yeah, there's no trees, so he fits the protocol for other places. I just seen him dominate. That's not a knock. That just means like before he's God, I don't know. I need to see him play some traditional golf courses that require PGA Tour players to become amazing.
Paul wants to know about Michael Kim, last year's John Deere Classic winner. This is why I actually think it might work out for Molinari too, because Molinari was second at that event. Don't forget. And was playing really well. Just Michael Kim had like the best tournament of the year. 250-1. Do you take a shot on it? that this course lines up very similarly, that if he can get it going again. I think he has missed like 8 straight cuts like he had going into John Deere.
No.
So no, you're just out.
Like maybe like your T5 or something, but I can't.
I would assume that T5 number is pretty big.
I can't get behind
Non-elite guys.
anyone sort of broaching that like 30-1 number. And if it happens to be Bubba, I don't know. Well, he's a major champion, and him winning anywhere if he's happy, I guess wouldn't shock me, but I'm not. I wouldn't bet him.
Bubba 25th, 10th, 4th, 28th, 25th the scores in the past. So he hasn't won here.
He's got as many runs as anyone outside of DJ.
At this event? Yeah, it's like him, Day, Cooch, Snediger.
Yeah, it was sad. Cooch finally had to get that monkey off his back because he was such a staple of always finding a way, and he was even doing those like Hawaii tourism ads with his like kids and wife.
And he's sticking around for Sony next week.
Yeah, I bet you his whole family's there.
Wonder if anyone else is going to stick around.
Of this group?
Yeah,
The bottom guys, why wouldn't they?
Yeah, Kevin Na will be at the Sony
Like
Open.
Tway wouldn't go to the Sony, Potter,
I'm more or less talking about the good players.
The best player that, I don't know.
JT might go.
Keegs or Sneds? No?
They'll probably play. Champ might play. But again, you have to play every event every 4 years. Do you think some of these guys might just try to knock it out?
I know he's not in the field and not going to bring up who you think, but would Tony show up to Sony? Doesn't he have like the Hawaiian blood thing? Wouldn't it be nice to get him a win? He could be like 6-1.
Oh, you'll have fun betting that.
I'm not betting it.
Yeah, you will. You'll
Get out of town.
You'll talk yourself into it. It depends on who else is there. What if it's just it's Tony and Keegan?
I'm gonna bet Luke List at like 28.
I'm not betting Luke List next week if he's 28-1.
What do you think he's gonna be?
I don't even know if he's playing.
He did last year. He missed the cut. I think he was my one and done.
Yeah, he played very poorly last year. I don't know. We'll have to see. It all depends on who's playing. Like if Champ plays, he'll be like 3-1.
I love these events. My bet exposure is
low
because we're just starting, and
it's also a small field with a bunch of good guys. Like again, like if you talk about the top 8 players in this field, it's kind of a crapshoot. They're all really good.
I mean, I would say because we go here and then Sony and then Career Builder, right? Mm-hmm. Those are the runs through the playoffs. I remember watching those events with NFL playoffs. And Career Builder's like a 3-course event. Sony can be fun. Sony, I might but these are all early season, like on my investment scale of what we'll get to in the golf seasons.
It's going to start at Torrey Pines.
Torrey's the week before the week
bye
off.
week.
Yeah, Torrey Pines Royal Rumble Sunday, I think.
And then we got Super Bowl Waste Management,
which is the best.
I like that they try to finish
and
up
then
the
Pebbles,
Waste Management.
And then we go into Pebble.
I believe it's Riviera then Pebble. Maybe it's Pebble then Riviera. I forget. It's one of the two.
Anyways, and these are like later in the day. This is like 10 p.m. finishes, right?
Except for Waste Management because they try to get it done before the Super Bowl
this
starts.
one for sure.
Yeah, this one's going to be super late. This will be over at like 9 o'clock at night. So you might be able to watch the football game, then watch the end of this and see my main man Bryson walking away with a win. I think I've talked myself into Molinari. It's 22-1. Just why is he 22-1?
I want to say the same for like Xander.
Yeah, Xander's really interesting.
Who also, he's won a tour championship and didn't he win a no-cut? He's got a no-cut swag too.
Oh, yeah, that's actually a really good call. He won the WGC.
I went with Leishman though. I looked at both these guys, but I just got suckered into Leishman, and I'm in at the top, so I got no room to like throw these extra darts and keep my exposure where I want it to be.
Maybe I'll have to settle this later in the week. Like I only have the one bet in right now. The one bet that I wanted to make, and I'm gonna have to dig in and do some more research on these guys.
But you're actually looking at guys like deep down there?
Maybe to take a shot. I think the lowest I would go, maybe it might be like, why couldn't Poulter win this?
He could.
And he's 66-1. I don't want to start getting into.
But I don't know. You could ask me that about Keegan, and I might say he could.
I suppose that's true.
Do
I want to take because this happened to me with Bryson when he won at whatever the hell it was, Safeway, I think it was during the swing season, that I ended up betting like 5 losers instead of betting Bryson, and Bryson ended up winning. And I felt like a moron. So this time around, like I'm already in on Bryson, but now do I want to take Snedeker, Keegan, Na, and Ian Poulter for the price of Justin Thomas? Wouldn't I just rather have Justin Thomas?
I think you're better off throwing a dart inside that 20, like.
But if I go Justin Thomas, all those guys are out. Like I'm taking a 7.5 guy and a 12 guy, and that's it.
I told you, I'm sort of in your spot because I'm on Rom, Reed, and Leishman. Like I made room for Leishman.
That's probably
but once
it.
I made Rom and Reed, Rom, I'd say I was lucky enough to I hit that Bills juiced up. So I'm not like eating that hard low number, but if I was picking from the top, that's where I'd be. But I don't know. We haven't talked about Webb. Does he do anything for you?
No, not really.
Especially when you could pick Xander or Molinari for that same price.
I think we just had the year of Webb.
Well, he's got to be that. It's like the team that, convert, I don't know, 90% from 3-pointers. Like, that can't happen, right?
It's sort of like the Eagles last year during the Wentz, like their third down conversion percentage from like beyond like 3rd and 10.
Or it was early this season when the Kansas City Chiefs had like this insanely high third down defensive getting off the field rate.
And then all of a sudden it goes away.
Because they were last in defense in like every other important metric except third down conversion rate. And then see what happens.
Like Webb,
It's got to regress.
Like Webb's really struggled off the tee last year. The irons were fine, but he just putted the lights out. And he's back on Bermuda, where he really, really stormed the field putting. So I get the narrative behind Webb, but I'm just going to be he and Jason Day are the two guys. Just they can't keep putting like this. Look what happened to Spieth when he stopped putting. All of a sudden, he wasn't any good. He's not in this tournament again.
But look what happens when those guys, like your Francescos, just find median putting.
That's what I'm talking about.
Like
Xanders.
When they find median putting,
They're great.
like they're superstars.
Yeah, I'm always gonna rely on ball striking when it comes down to it. My biggest concern about investing too much money into this is that Dustin's sitting there at 5-1, which I'm not going to play. And I think that very few people are going to bet Dustin. Like they might use him as a pick on DraftKings, as a one and done potentially, but no one's going to bet him at 5-1 that you can just run away. He won by 8 shots last year. Like that, him at the top and having Brooks lingering right there too. Really kind of maybe I just pick one of the 8 and hope they win, or 2 of the 8 and hope that those are the 2 guys, and that's all the money that I have invested. Like, I was looking at the first-round leaders. I don't see any first-round leaders that I like.
What do you mean? You don't see Putnam shooting a 12 under on Thursday?
I mean, Putnam could be... Maybe I'll have to throw a first-round dart on Michael Kim. I think he's 90-1. Hope just this resurrects some sort of memory from Deer Run last year, and he just goes mental.
What do you think of... I don't know. I just want to talk about Cameron Champ.
Let's talk about Cameron Champ. This is a good shot for him. This is a great course.
I think a lot of the early season courses set up very well for him. Like the desert course opportunities that Career Builders and Phoenix represent.
Sony actually sets up really well for him.
If he doesn't end up under a cactus, he can crush it. And Brooks will finally be back at Sony.
Is he going?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe he's too big time. But he was always at Sony before, like...
He's at Sony or at Phoenix?
Sorry, I'm meaning to say Phoenix. I meant to say, yeah, Brooks will be back in Phoenix. And I've also meant to say Cam for Phoenix. Like, as long as he's not under a cactus.
Sony Open actually works out really well, too, because it's the one with the lowest hit fairway of any course on tour. But it's like people actually play better out of the rough than they do off the fairway because you can just gouge it down the course.
It would also be like didn't Fabian Gomez win?
He did. Fabian Gomez beat Brent Snedeker in a playoff.
Who won last year?
Kazire.
Anyone can win that sucker.
It's just not that strong of a field. And but the thing is, we always talk about where's the motivation for some of these top guys at Sony? They're just kind of playing to play because they're already in Hawaii. I remember everyone was really big on Woodland last year at that event too. And just You don't
know. They could have the kids along. It's just like a vacation.
Yeah, it's a paid vacation.
Yeah. And I'll play a resort golf course for 4 days.
So, picks. Let's get to them. It's the one thing I don't like about these small field events. We just end up talking about 10 guys.
Well, even for DFS purposes, I always have more fun. Like the WGCs and the no-cut events.
They're tough.
just harder. The lineup disparities are so much different, and I don't know. I feel like if I have any advantage, which is zero, it's
Knowing the guys from the bottom of the field.
yeah, it's kind of like just getting 6 for 6 and hoping for the best in the weekend and the best, from 6 and 6, good things can happen.
This is true.
Here it's like I struggle. Nonetheless, my picks are Rom, Reed, and Leishman.
Rom, Reed, and Leishman. I'm going to go with Bryson. That's the only one I have on the card.
I like that a lot.
At 12-1. And now I'm looking at either Rom or Justin Thomas. I'm leaning towards Justin Thomas at 7.5. And I think I might end up. You know what? I'm going to go bet Molinari right after we get off the air at 22-1. So Molinari and Bryson are my 2 picks. As of now, I might add someone else to that. So check out the cheat sheet on Wednesday on my Facebook page, facebook.com/thepme. You want to talk some one and done strategy?
Sure.
Okay. Maybe we should do this. If you had to pick someone this week as your one and done. And I think this is a way that we can talk about the strategy because we're not starting until next week. And again, if you want to get into the draw for a free entry into the Gups one and done, or you can just pay the $50 and going to gupscorner.com, entering like we do. And I think there's like 1,200 people on it already. It's going to be a nice, juicy prize pool. But if you want the free entry, share this show on social media. Once it's up, do not quote tweet it. Just retweet it and then respond with a reply to that tweet or on Facebook in the comment section with hashtag GUP2. And we will announce the winner on Monday's show next week. In the event that there is no show on Monday, because like we've discussed, maybe people have missed it because they don't like football. They only like golf. My wife is very close to having a baby. So I'm just going to disappear for a week at some point. She's very anti me. We're not coming from the hospital to come shoot a show and then go back to the hospital if she's in labor. She's out on that move. I asked her. She said it's a real bad look for me. So we might just not have a show one of the weeks. So if it is next week, I'll contact that person on Twitter to do it. So I think the move that I am doing this year, and I've been relatively unsuccessful in the one and dones. So have you. Paul's been the best. And I kind of watched what Paul did last year and saw the strategy that he used. And I really do think that the idea, if you can stick to it, is essentially look at the top 8 guys in odds, the top 5 guys in odds, top 6 guys in odds, whatever it is, like the cream of the crop in the field, and just take the guy that no one's talking about. Like this week, Brooks would be an excellent pick.
Like the forgotten.
It doesn't mean he's going to win, but you don't want to take Bryce Garnett because he's guaranteed to get money. Like that's a bad idea. Give yourself a chance to win every time, and don't worry about burning your guys. You're gonna have guys.
Always have guys. You'll get to that tour championship, and you'll have guys.
And you'll have guys left
I
on the
promise
table.
you'll have guys. I agree. I refer to your strategy. It's sort of like the forgotten elite. Every week there'll be buzz guys, and there'll always be a couple forgotten. Yeah, maybe in your case, Brooks and
Justin Thomas potentially.
Even Jason Day.
Like Day would be another one. I don't know how many people are going to use. I think like Rom and Reed, from just the buzz that I've seen. Rom, Reed, Leishman, and Snedeker, I think will be your 4 like really trendy picks for one and done.
Rory could be a sleeper.
Rory could too. Yeah, we didn't really mention Rory. Do you have interest in Rory at 9-1?
No, because I was already in, but I told you he's been grinding.
It really does seem like Rom and Reed are going to be the 2 guys that people go to in one and done. So it sucks. Like I remember when Hideki won in Phoenix 2 years ago. I faded Hideki that week. And everyone had him. He was like 71% picked, and he won. Like, then you feel like an idiot. But that generally doesn't happen. The most popular one into the consensus one, to be honest, rarely wins.
I would say if you followed that strategy, didn't within the last couple of years, Hideki like hurt his wrist in
he
Phoenix
withdrew last year
and withdraw when he's the guy. So water will find its level. I get like you want to be hyper specific with maybe who you'd want at majors.
No, I don't think so. I think if you start saving people, you're in a lot of trouble.
No, not saving.
Like, if you're like, I'm saving John Rahm for Phoenix.
I was gonna say
that's a bad idea. I've done that before. And it was a terrible idea.
Well, I take this back in a sense because the schedules, like last year's stuff, was actually piggybacking. So it was literally like you had these huge events that were like one on top of each other. It was like 2 majors and a WGC in a month. So in that case, I was like thinking more or less when you get to those spots. But there'll always be horses for courses, like your Bubba Travelers and guys will always.
But they're good at those courses. Don't be like, oh, Luke Donald's playing at the Heritage. Let's take Luke Donald. That's not a good idea.
He never wins.
I mean, you would
Was
take
that guy like second?
Yeah, he had
second
before
places
missing
or
the
something?
cut. Before missing the cut this year, he had 9 consecutive top 5s, but he was 125 to 1 to win. Like, you should really never be looking at anyone over 40 to 1 in a one and done, unless you're really far behind and need to make up points. At the beginning of the season, you're not. So if you try to get too clever too early and you miss, you're so far behind the 8 ball.
It's like reminds me when Tim takes like Chesson Hadley at the Honda or something.
Yeah. Guys he's never heard of that he likes to take.
That like
Getting
had a
real
good,
tricky.
Had like good.
There just aren't enough events to need to get tricky about. Like, there's 40 events.
Drop the hammer.
Drop the hammer whenever you can. Give yourself the best shot to, and like, because someone will say, hey, like the players in the U.S. Open, they're worth so much money. And if people don't know what one and done is, like, be strange if you were still watching this, but you get the money that the player wins in the tournament. So those are like the big prize pools.
But even like winning the $1 million instead of the 1.7 is still like
It's still
huge.
Like,
it's huge.
There's no real difference between winning the Tournament of Champions. I think it's like 1 point.
Well, this is a big one.
This is a big one, but people won't treat it as a big one because they'll want to take Kevin Tway. You know what I'm saying? Like, people love locking in that guaranteed money and burning someone like that's not at the top end. Oh, I can save
It
Dustin.
seems so easy to do the first week of the season. But yeah, I would advise, as you spoke of, get her done.
Like, Molinari might be a nice pick. Champ might actually be a good pick this week because people will not use Champ. I'm not going to use him because I'm not actually in one, but
not using him.
But he's a guy that people won't take this week, and he's under 25 to 1 in odds. So that would be my strategy on one and dones this year. Again, my other 2 strategies failed completely, so this one might be miserable as well. But that's the way that I'm going to play it. So I'll have my 2 entries. I'll have the one that I give out on the show that I'll play in the contest, and I'll have my other one that I do as well, which people can probably glean who I'm going to take, and it might depend on where I sit in the standings, because that's a big part of it too, I think, towards the end of the year. You have to know where you're at. And
But this also is the segment pay, or did they abolish
Yeah,
that?
but we're not talking specifically about this. We're just talking about one and dones. But I don't understand, like, trying to win a segment. If you're trying to win the segment, aren't you trying to win the year?
Obviously, but unless
Like,
you're
how would that change?
Well, once you get to the segments, if you're doing really crappy,
Would you start saving people? Because then you're out of the running for the top prize.
no. Well, under your strategy, you're never saving people. This concept of saving people doesn't really exist, and I agree with that. I condone that. We said this exact thing last year, and Paul was the only one to do it. We both said, like, no, that is strategy of just taking the guy inside the top 8, 10 in odds that nobody
no one's talking about.
is talking about.
So the other thing, too, is don't get on, like, if people are really hyped about Snedeker this week, and I think that they are, because he makes a lot of sense. But don't start taking the super chalky 50 to 1 guy. Like, if you lose, you lose. And that if that guy wins, like, that guy so rarely wins. If you're going to ever get on a chalk guy for the week, make sure it's a good guy. Not a 50 to 1. Make sure it's an 8 to 1 guy, a 10 to 1 guy, not a 50 to 1 guy.
Literally, that guy never wins. Ever.
I'm sure it's happened. But, yeah, I just, it's bad odds. Like, you're not playing the game then. At least in my mind.
I'm just saying, like, speaking of, like, the DF, like, the darling of the week has a much worse track record than favorable outcome, I feel. And maybe that's just a perception-based thing from the times we've all been scorned by said person. And I'm not talking about, like, the elite, like, darling. I'm talking about, you know.
When Luke List is the popular play of the week.
Yeah.
And he's 80 to 1 or something. It's like, all right.
I can.
And I'm guilty of falling into that trap a lot. I'm going to really try to not fall into that trap this year, because if you don't finish inside the top 3, your guy doesn't finish first, second, or third, it's kind of irrelevant. Like, coming in 8th isn't some huge accomplishment. You win, what, $100,000 for your total? Like, that's nothing.
It's nothing that the guy behind you doesn't think he can pass you in with a blink of an eye.
That's why taking the losers in this event makes no sense. Like, taking Andrew Landry. Oh, Andrew Landry won $47,000. Great. That's like having 0. Even the guy who won the one and done last year had a bunch of missed cuts. Just when he guys got through the cut, they came first or second. That's what you need. You need winners.
And it's bigger this year, so the total money, sort of like the percentage you need to win some of the fancier like spread picking contests, as they become like such bigger contests. 63% doesn't get you paid anymore.
No, you need to be like off the charts.
68.
You need to be an outlier.
To win, you got to flirt with, you got to be an outlier that people feel like that's impossible. But somebody's whizzing it through.
All right. That'll do it on the Pat Mayo Experience, kicking off the year.
You also, by the way, had Bryson to win your Player of the Year.
I did, yes.
So we're both sort of guilty, I think, of that.
Of course,
right here.
I have such a bad grasp of this tournament that I'm just going with the guy, and he's the lowest of like the guys. Like I don't think that Reed is on the level of the guys up there. Not to say that he can't win, but he shouldn't be 14-1.
I completely agree with that.
He should be 20-1. Like I know he's won here before, and he's getting the bets on him to like go up the list, but like there's no real reason for Reed to be higher than Molinari.
I can't really disagree whatsoever.
Watch Paul Casey win. We'll all be sitting here looking like idiots.
I never thought to bet him. I brought him up, but I never thought to bet him.
He might be an interesting DraftKings play. When I talked to Raza about the DraftKings breakdown, that's where you want to get like off the board with the middle type guys.
Yeah,
like instead of taking Leishman, who's going to be super popular, take Paul Casey, like that kind of move. But in terms of outright betting, I'm really trying to get away from betting guys that are like 175-1.
Are you going to play any of your like each ways
this week?
Yeah.
No, probably not. Maybe with Molinari. I think it's top 4, but. Like it's hard to do an each way with Bryson at 12-1 for top 4 because
I was talking about more.
He would pay 3-1 for a top 4. Like, I'd rather just put if I'm gonna because you have to split your bet on the each way. I'd rather just put $100 on outright instead of 50 on the win and 50 on the top 5, top 4. Like, it's not worth it at that time.
I mean, speaking of Bryson, because I looked at it because we did the conversation of it seemed you almost like should I just. Him to win an anytime major was like 5 or 6-1.
Is that what it is?
This year, 6-1. I want to say. I didn't think that was good enough, as much as I believe in it.
So how much? Because he's like 20s, anywhere between like 28 and 35 for like all the majors, except for the Masters. I think he's 20. So if you bet what?
And that's been bet down because it's.
Let's just say you bet $100 every single time, just to make it easy. So you would win what? 2K on 20-1.
Yeah,
you'd win 35
on 35
on 35-1. And if he was 5-1 and you bet him at each of the majors, so 5 times 400, you'd win 2K if you just bet the anytime. So maybe it's better to bet him at the individual ones.
I always feel like that when I stare at those because it just doesn't feel like enough. And then I don't want to commit the 4 wager time bet at Christmas to have it sit there.
I guess so,
sense.
But I mean, sometimes it will work in your favor. Like, because if you're going to bet 100 on him each time, and maybe you wouldn't, but just to make things easy, that you would bet 400 on whatever the anytime is. Like, if you got up to 6, and you're talking about a $2,400 payday, it's not so bad. But it seems like there is value to bet him in each of the individual majors if you were going to do it, just based on. I think he's 40-1 to win the British Open. So that'll do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. The shows get better than this, I promise.
Yeah. I don't know why. Was it not good?
It's a lackluster effort. I'm pretty hungover.
Okay.
Enjoy your New Year's, peoples. Yeah. Go Bryson or Molinari. Same guys I liked at the Ryder Cup.
Go Chargers.
Yeah, you want the Chargers? You can follow Jeff on Twitter at GFienberg17.
It's amazing.
We'll be back to do football this week, too.
Yeah. It is amazing. Well, yes. Certain guys aren't here. It's too funny, but we'll have all year to talk about those guys.
Wait, you don't think that funny like Tiger's not here or like Spieth's not
like
here?
Spieth and Tony and Ricky. They'll be back. I'll be back.
I think Spieth has the best shot of being back out of those 3. Maybe Tony does. Would it be weird if Tony didn't win again this year?
That would, but like had the exact same year.
Yeah.
Like didn't have a regression, like literally
Played
did
really well.
everything he did and placed just as he placed, that would be quite humorous. Because at least in Ricky's case, there was a pretty significant regression.
He came second at the Masters, and I feel like he never really got it back together after that.
There was quite a big regression, especially I would say statistically, which was dominant in my opinion, in a lot of key metrics coming into last year.
Well, if you just took out Saturdays, I'm sure Ricky was the best player on tour.
Always true.
So, fantasynational.com, go become a member right now. I'm going to get in contact with Mr. Michael Taylor, get him his free membership for the year. Everyone else should go into that as well. Lineup generators, simulations, every stat you could ever want. It's really the best. I've credited a lot of, for picking outright winners, I got hot towards the second half of the season, but just in overall winnings, I never had a year better than last year. Blame that on one good DraftKings lineup, but hey, it was generated by Fantasy National.
And it's also quite an amazing tool that I've used to sort of help me look at players and how they might fare at the majors.
In terms of what?
Pardon?
Like, what do you mean?
Like when you search the players and their course types and their green types, and
Yeah.
a lot of things have been shown to me that make it very advantageous when I inquire about prospects for a player at a major.
Yeah, of course. You can have your custom model, the mixed condition model. I mean, members won at least $2.3 million just on DraftKings alone last year. So try to up that total. Maybe get in 2 millionaire makers in the mix this year, not just Drew.
Okay. Will you have a Millie Maker in 2019?
I wonder if that's a bet that's out there. I wonder if
Fantasy National. All the tout sites. Go ahead.
There-
I got my money on you guys.
there is no touting at Fantasy National. That's the one thing that you're not going to find there.
I-
You're not going to find picks.
That's appreciated.
You can make your own picks. There's no one. The only thing there to sway you is statistics.
The models give you your picks.
Yeah,
You create your
create the
models.
models. It's super easy to do, but you create what you want to go in it. All the research is there for you to do. It's very easy to use. Even you can use it.
Well, even for the, as much as it helps with the DFS and making decisions, like the head-to-head golfer bets, sometimes there's quite a variance in the perception of how a book has them numbered and the realities that Fantasy National can show you.
Absolutely. So fantasynational.com, become a member, weekly, monthly, or yearly. Yearly is obviously the best deal on the board. Drew McCormick and Shane, I'll be in contact with you for your free GUP entries to the one and done. And if you want to get into the draw for $20 DK dollars announced on next week's show, give the episode a like. Leave your DraftKings handle in the comment section and tell me who you think is going to win. If you want to get into the draw for the Gups Corner giveaway, free one-and-done entry, which starts at the Sony Open. So go to gupscorner.com, go enter it anyway. Maybe you'll pick up a free one along the way. All you have to do is share this show on social media or the DraftKings show from Tuesday with Ben Raza, which will be out on Tuesday, on New Year's Day. When you're all hungover, you can watch some more golf and figure out the strategy of the field. But reply to that after sharing it. No quote tweeting with the hashtag GUP2. Winners announced next week. Follow Jeff on Twitter, GFienberg17. Follow me at the PME, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, where my cheat sheet will be for the bets. Check out the rest of my work up on DKPlaybook.com. I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. Good luck. I'll see you next time.
That Mayo experience! Experience!